Welcome back. So today I was going to talk about emphysema and a herbal formula called Air Musan. Air Musan. And first of all, I'll talk about emphysema and just give a little background on it, and then we can talk about how this herbal formula is helpful for that specific disease. Emphysema is a subtype of COPD. Some of you may have heard of COPD, which stands for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And there's two main subtypes of COPD. One is emphysema, and then the other is chronic bronchitis. And for most people who have COPD, they tend to have varying degrees of both. So you might actually, if you've been diagnosed with COPD, you might have both of these, and sometimes your doctor may not go through a lot of trouble of necessarily trying to distinguish which one it is, unless they think there's a lot of benefit to doing that medication wise. But a lot of times we will classify them both together as COPD because there's a lot of overlap. Um, Emphysema, it's a little bit more of a specific process which refers to the alveoli in the lungs being damaged. And the alveoli are the air sacs in the lungs. So when you take a deep breath, the air rushes into your lungs, and your lungs, you can kind of think of it, not really, it's not a honeycomb, but you can kind of think of it like that in the sense that there's all these small compartments just spread out through the both of your lungs. And when you breathe in, the air goes and fills in all of those little honeycomb pockets and spaces. And where it fills in those little alveoli, or those little pockets, those bags of tissue, as it fills it in, the air comes into contact with the blood vessels, and oxygen and carbon dioxide are traded across the blood vessels in the alveoli. And so it's really important for getting oxygen into your body and breathing out the carbon dioxide. And so what happens in emphysema is those alveoli are damaged. And the most common reason, at least in the United States, for emphysema and COPD in general is smoking. So smoking over long periods of time damages the alveoli, and it damages that inner honeycomb of the lung, all those little air spaces. And so people who, if you get emphysema or you get COPD, you tend to have common symptoms like shortness of breath, increased cough, increased sputum production. You have a lot of congestion and phlegm. And as it progresses and it gets worse, you have decreased oxygen in your body. And so there's a number of symptoms, most of them all related to the lungs. So that being said, for emphysema in Chinese medicine, one of the common things that we see as the underlying problem for emphysema is what we would call lung yin deficiency, and in some cases also with phlegm excess. And so the yin of the lungs is an important substance that helps to maintain the moistness of your lungs. And what happens with cigarette smoking is that the smoke tends to have a drying and consumptive effect on the yin energy of the lungs in your body. And so when that happens over time, it consumes the lung yin energy, and it can damage that. And that results in emphysema. And so in Chinese medicine, one of the things that we try to do with emphysema and lung disorders, we have to characterize it first, of course, but if you tend to have a lung yin deficiency, there's a number of herbs that can be helpful for that. So I picked out a formula called Air Musan, and this translates to mean two mother powder. That's literally what the name translates out to, two mother powder. And it consists of two herbs. And what they do in your body is they go to the lungs, and it works to improve the moistness in the lungs, and also cool down the lungs, because when you're after smoking for an extended period of time, when it damages the lung yin, it creates a yin deficient heat inside the lungs. And that's also why you have coughing and why you have yellow sputum production. It's because of that increased heat in the lungs. So this formula is a formula that cools down the lungs, and it also helps to support the yin energy of the lungs, to help heal the lungs, restore the function of the alveoli. And it's also a formula that can help reduce the phlegm in your body. So a lot of times if you have emphysema or chronic bronchitis, you'll have a lot of sputum production, a lot of phlegm production. And Air Musan has herbs that can help to reduce the amount of phlegm and transform that phlegm and expel it from your body without it causing a lot of congestion and blockage in your lungs. So it's a simple formula, two herbs that work together. It's used for cases of lung deficient heat with phlegm and also dryness. It helps to moisten the lungs, and it's a good formula for a lot of patients. So emphysema and Air Musan, and we'll see you next time.